Okay, so I'm going to walk through the basic program for you so you'll have a better understanding of what it's all about. Up here, this gray bar is your main toolbar. Okay, one, you have basic data, which under that you have edit profile, all categories, and add categories. Now your categories are the areas you want the tax deductions to go into, like maybe automobile expenses, for example. We'll come over to banks. You have a listing for all your banks, or add a bank statement. That's for reconciliation purposes. Alright, suppliers, you got add supplier. Now add supplier is an important function, because without the supplier, the program will not accept the data. Import cash box report, import bank statement, import supplier statement. These two, bank and supplier, are primarily for reconciliation purposes, to check your actual physical invoices that you've entered into the program against the supplier statement. You're looking for any discrepancies. Alright, under invoice, you have add detailed invoice. This is probably the most used tab in the program. Add detailed invoice is where you or the receptionist or the service advisor, whoever you designate to do this, they hit add detailed invoice. A screen will pop up and they'll take all the data that's on the invoice and put it into the program at that point. All detailed invoices allows you to view every detailed invoice in the program. You can select a date range to do that. Add bill pay invoice. A bill pay invoice is separate than the detailed invoice, in that the all bill pay invoice is primarily for recording like your utility bills and maybe programs to run the business, those types of things. I'm going to call those reoccurring charges. And then all bill pay invoices will allow you to look at every invoice that's ever been entered into the program under all bill pay invoices. Reconciliation, you have bank reconciliation. That is if you're using a credit card to purchase parts, or if you're charging it with your supplier, you have a supplier reconciliation. And down here you have what's known as the anti-fraud reconciliation. So that basically compares the invoices that you've entered into the program versus what you've actually got a PO number for. So there should be a PO number for every single invoice that you enter into the program. If there's not, then this is going to pick up on that. And returns. Okay, so you have add return. So this means that you went out in a shop and you seen a caliper sitting on the shelf and you said, "Hey, Mr. Tech, what's going on with this caliper?" "Oh, that caliper's defective." So at that point you would take that part number and you'd go in to add a return. You'd enter the part number, it'd pull up the original purchase invoice, and at that point you can create a return, which is a document for tracking what you're sending back and what you're well, not what you're receiving back. That's a different part of the program, but it tracks everything that's currently a core or some type of return. All returns allows you to view all the returns that are currently active. Add credit invoice. Now add credit invoice is, so you've got a return, you get a credit invoice, you go into add credit invoice, you enter the credit invoice information, and then it takes that off the active chart. You have all credit invoices. So if you want to review every single credit invoice that you've ever had, you can do that here. Reports, expense report. This one here is very important. This goes back to those categories we talked about earlier. This takes all the data, puts it into categories and subcategories, and creates a date range, which obviously on an expense report, that would probably be the first of the month to the end of the month, unless you're doing it quarterly, and then you'd go from the very start of the first quarter to the end of that quarter. You'd enter those numbers in there and it would pull up an expense report that you can PDF, email to your accountant, and you're done. A return report basically shows you your current returns. Usage report. This is kind of like a catch-all. You can do a lot of stuff with the usage report. The usage report, basically, you can take an item, let's say your cell phone bill, and you want to go back over a year's period. And you can physically look at the numbers for each payment for that year, and you can see if your cell phone bill is creeping up, or as far as that goes, any other bill. You may want to use it to track, not track, but to say, hey, how many Honda oil filters do we use? Put that part number in there and it'll tell you how many you used for the year. Or you can broaden that and see which oil filter is the most popular. The owner break-even report. This is a report that basically explains how much money you have to make to keep the business running. So in other words, the business has bills and payroll and taxes, all that. After all that's paid, this is a summary of what it takes to run your business for either a week or a month, however you want to look at the data. So for example, when you run this report, it might say that you need to make $6,782 to break even. After you make that money, you're starting to make money for yourself. Okay, so I'm going to quickly go through these tabs, and I'm just going to show you what the page looks like. I'm not going to get into putting a bunch of data in there and all that. So edit profile. Basically, your profile is your business information. So you have the business name, the address, phone number, email, and business owner's name. All categories is basically where you're putting your information. Like, are you putting it in advertising and marketing, bad business debts, car and truck expenses, charitable contributions, employee benefits, employee education, employee wages, and so on and so on and so on. And each one of these main categories has what's known as a subcategory. So for example, let's edit advertising and marketing. Okay, so under advertising and marketing, you have just general advertising, agency fees, business cards, customer surveys, development, flyers, gifts to customers, online advertising. This is sort of like just micromanaging the category. So you got a category, that's a general area you want to put it, and then the subcategory is to pinpoint exactly where you want it. Over here we have fixed cost. Now fixed cost, the reason this is here is if it says yes, then it goes on your owner break-even report. If you say no, then it's not going to be on the owner break-even report. Over here you have a delete button if you want to delete any of these, or basically change the terminology, whatever you may want to do there. The question mark, a little pop-up that tells you exactly what's going on. It's like a help section for you. And up here, this question mark will actually give you a video, a short video that will run you through the process. Okay, add category. So basically, add category, you have a blank screen. You can create your own category, type it in up here, and then underneath that category you list your subcategories, and then you determine if it's a fixed expense or not. Alright, banks, all banks. Basically this displays the banks that you have your credit card with for charging parts or writing checks or whatever the case may be. Add. So you select your bank, and then the reason a date popped up here on its own is because the last reconciliation was done on 8/17/2024. And now we've got a bank statement, but the current date, let's say, is August 26th. So you'd put 8/26/2024 here, then you'd put show items. Alright, this gets a little bit involved, but this is basically to get you set up to do a bank reconciliation. Okay, add supplier. Basically you have a screen like this. Again, you have these question marks to give you a brief description of what you need to do there. Address, city, state, it's pretty simple. Just put the supplier's information in there, go down to the bottom and hit save, and it's pretty much a done deal. Import, I'm going to skip over this one. It's just a basic procedure where you can scan a document, import it, and the program will use that imported data to verify other expenses. Invoice, add detailed invoice. Earlier we said that this is probably going to be the most used screen. Again, you have the video option. You can open it, you can close it, and it'll run you through this portion of it. You have your question marks to tell you what you need to put in this line item. So we got the supplier, the date of the invoice number, the purchase order number, and the total amount of the invoice. Now down here, you're going to put the part number, the part name, the quantity, the price, and you're going to select the category that you want to put it in. And this drop down will give you a screen where you can select that category. And then down at the bottom, you're going to hit next. If there's not enough room on there for everything, you can hit the add items tab, and it will allow you to put more in there. All detailed invoices. Actually, I'll give you a quick demo on this. We're going to pick a supplier. Alright, now you see how they popped up once I started typing their name? You select them from the drop down. The from date, let's go from the 1st to the 23rd. And then you can use these other fields if you want to, but they're not really necessary for what we're doing here. We just want to look at Smythe. So we hit find, and that will bring up everything that we've purchased from that time frame. Okay, so basically you might be looking for, I'll say all you really know is how much the invoice was. It was $62.46. You can go in and edit that. You can create a return from here. You can hit this return. Alright, add bill pay invoice. Again, you have the video. Open and close it. You have the supplier's name, invoice, invoice number. And this box down here is kind of important. You can put notes in here. Let's say that something occurred during the transaction that you want to remember. So you can type it into the notes. Or you can maybe put a message on there for the next person that needs that information. All bill pay invoices. So let's take a look at all bill pay invoices. Alright, we're going to go with the electric bill. And we're going to go the from date, because this is a monthly bill, we're going to go back to, let's say, January 1st to today's date, and then find. So here's all my electric bills for that time period. And this goes back to those reports. If you want to do a usage report, this kind of information plays into that. Okay, reconciliation. We have bank reconciliation. That's pretty involved. I'm not going to get into that right now. Returns. Okay, so add a return. Basically opens up this screen. And you put all the information in here, and then you hit find, and it finds the original invoice for you, and then you can create the return from there. All returns, you can type an individual supplier's name in here, or you can just hit find, and it brings up everything that you currently have. Now you'll notice there's 2 in red. That means that those are 2 weeks old. So really, I should be calling O'Reilly Auto Parts and finding out why I haven't received my credit. And then these are just active returns. They're not aged. If they were a week old, they would turn yellow. If they're over 2 weeks, they turn red. So it gives you a real quick indicator on your returns on, hey, why ain't I getting a credit slip back? And that's important because you don't want them to have a caliper sitting around in there for 2 or 3 weeks and then all of a sudden it disappears, and now you got a dispute on whether or not the core was even sent back. Alright, add credit invoice. Add credit invoice, you just take the credit invoice, take the information here, hit save, and then it will remove it from that returns list at that point. Alright, returns report. We won't get into that right now. Usage report. I'll open that screen up so you can pick the supplier, the category that you want to target, the subcategory that you want to target, and the date range that you want the data on that report. And then you put all that in there, hit that, and it'll bring up a report, exactly what you're looking for. And then of course the owner break-even report. You basically do your from and to date, averaged by, weekly, monthly. You can select either or. And then it's going to give you the amount once you hit the break-even amount right here. And if you selected weekly, it's going to put it here. If you selected monthly, it's going to put it here. So this is just a basic overview of the program. I hope this is helpful. I could have went into a lot more detail, but you'd be here for 2 hours. For more information, you can obviously go to our website, you can call us, you can do whatever you want to do. Now, we're a small startup company, and right now we're offering the first 3 months free. So you can absolutely use this program for 3 months, not pay a dime. At the end of that period, if you're not interested in the program, you're under no obligation. Just walk away. Thank you for taking time to view this information.